Alright, welcome back to the Cannon game. So this is all the code that I had from before. Of course, we had a canvas, a gravity. We're calling out and running the customized making grass function, which is down here below, where of course I would have my customized functions. A lot of lines of code I don't need there. But for this assignment, what we want to do now is establish a pole and also a cannon. So to get us started, up here at the top, well, actually before we do that, I'm going to put these in their own functions. Now, they're objects or sprites that we want to show up right at the beginning of the game. So whenever the user starts the game or runs the game, the cannon and the pole will show up, which means we should be in the setup function, which is where we are. These two functions will go in the setup function. First up, I'm going to call the first one that we're going to make is the pole. Okay, once we get the pole made, then we can put the cannon on it. Now remember, this is the running of the customized functions. So my customized functions are below the draw function. And remember, all my newer functions go at the top of my customized functions list here at the bottom. So when I create them down here. And this is making the pole for the cannon. Okay, so of course it's going to be a function which I called the pole. Open close parentheses, open fancy brackets, close fancy brackets, and then we can put our code in here. Now of course I can't show you running the code here, but at least by making the function down here, when it's run up here on line 16 for me, you don't have any errors. But what we're going to do is create the pole. Now I can't call it the pole because of the name of the function, the pole. So up here I will probably call it something else. I'll probably just call it pole. Let pole. Okay, and I should probably have made a note for that one. Well, we'll just call it the pole. Right there. And that allows me, since I did let pole, that's a variable. And down here, I can say the pole is going to be a new capital S Sprite. Open parentheses, close parentheses, semicolon. Okay, so as usual, whenever you put in a new line of code, make sure you run it before you put any more code in, because in the last project there were students coming to me after we had updated the score for the golf game, and they're like, I can't get my code to work. Now after a deep analysis of their code, it's like, oh, you got lots of problems with your code. And so I actually had to backtrack all the way to the beginning. They had made the canvas correctly, but everything after that was not showing up, and that's because they had made an error on the second assignment, even though there was like 15 different assignments. And so that student had to go all the way back, essentially restarting the project. So if you have any errors at this point, please don't move on. You need to find where your error is before you put any more code in. And just like you saw right there on line 35, I did put in a new line of code, which means I'm ready for a new line of code, and again, this should work. Now that I have a pole, what I would like to do is, well, I guess I'd like to position it, because right now, actually, you know what, let's make the shape, because right now what you get at the center of your canvas is a square, which we don't want. I just want a pole which should appear like a line. So I'm going to take the pole, and I'm going to give it some width, width, space equals space. Let's say 1.5 on this one. Now you can test this value out as much as you'd like, but I'm going to go with 1.5 right there, and that will be the width of my pole. And then the height of the pole, pole.height, space equals space, will just be the height of the canvas. If I can spell height right, H-E-I-G-H-T, there we go. And again, even though I did 2 lines of code, of course, you should have only done 1 line, tested it out. I can't test it because I'm just doing this in a text program. And then the next line, of course, you run it, make sure it works. Okay, if it does work, you put in more code. If it doesn't, find your error before you move on, because it's a lot easier to find your errors if you do that. So now that I have the shape of the pole, which of course for us is just showing it go straight down, the middle of our canvas. So now what we want to do is position it. So the pole.x, it goes the entire, I guess the height of the screen, right? It goes from the very top to the very bottom of the screen. And it should also be going behind the grass. If it's not going behind the grass, that's okay. We are going to fix that. Don't you worry about it, okay? But first, I just want to get a position, and it's okay to see this going all the way through before we put this behind the grass, okay? So pole.x first. Let's see. I'm gonna base this off of the width of the screen, or the canvas, but what I'm going to do is multiply it by a percentage. I just want it to be at a certain percentage of the screen. So the one that I found seemed to work best for me is 0.15. Okay. And now that I have that position, what I'd like to do, because if you look at the very bottom when you run this, you should have ran it, but when you do run this, the pole is right in front of the grass, and I don't want it to be in front of the grass. If you don't mind that, you don't have to do this next line of code. But to fix that, we're going to put this on a specific layer. And if you put it on layer 1, it should work. So this, if you put on layer 1, you run it, and what happens? The pole goes behind the grass now. Okay. So with this, now what we will do is give the pole a color, and I'm going to give mine the color of, well, I think black seems to be okay. All right. So once again, we put in more code. Since you put in more code, you should run the code and make sure that it works. If it does work, then we can move on to the next line of code. And the pole actually don't want to have any effect on any of the cannonballs that we end up shooting. Not that we have any to shoot right now, but to do that, I don't want to have any effect on it. So that's a collider code, space equals space, and this one will make it part of the background by making it a none collider. Now, in this way, it's not affected by the gravity, but again, it's not affected by collisions either, and that's good. That's exactly what we want. So you can, again, run your code, make sure there's no errors. If there are any errors, make sure you fix them. Do not move on and do more code until you fix any errors that you have. But I now have a pole, and it's going, well, it's going towards the left side of the screen, because remember, I put it at about where was it? 15% of the width of the screen. So it's more to the left. And the next thing we need after we have a pole is, of course, a cannon. Now, I'm going to show it like this. Not that you have to do it like this, but since I'm saying pole and cannon up here, I'm going to say pole, comma, cannon. Like this. Well, if I can spell it right. And that is going to make so that I can, well, I can just save a line of code like that. Okay, now again, you don't have to do that. You can say, well, let pole and let cannon like this, but either way, it should be fine. So now that I have defined a cannon as a variable, now I'm ready to make it an object. So we're going to come down here, and again, I'm going to make the cannon its own customized function, the cannon. Open parentheses, close parentheses, semicolon, and I can't really test the code right now because I'm calling out a function, but I haven't actually created it down here with my customized function. So that's what I'm going to do here, making the cannon. So we're going to call it the function space, the, capital C for me, cannon, open parentheses, close parentheses, fancy bracket, open fancy bracket, close fancy bracket. And this now, if you were to run this, at the very least, you should be able to not have any errors. The screen should not go blank. And because of that, now we are ready to actually make the cannon. So first up, yeah, we called it cannon, didn't we? C-A-N-N-O-N. Well, what are we going to do? We're going to make it a new sprite just to start out with. So NEW space capital S PRITE, open close parentheses, semicolon, and again run this code, make sure that it works. If it works, then we can put in more code, which I am going to do now. In fact, I'll show the pull code while I do that. And so I'm going to give myself a new line of code. What I would like to do is get the image of the cannon on here. So that's what I'm going to do next. And that would be cannon.img, img for image, space equals space. And what we're going to do is load. So L-O-A-D, and then we're going to use camel case right here because it's load image. L-O-A-D, capital I-M-A-G-E, open parentheses, close parentheses. Now inside of this set of parentheses, I do need an image to load. So what am I going to call it? Let's see. So I have Canon. Mine was a PNG, so I'm going to call it Canon PNG, like this. And, well, there's not an actual PNG to load into this image. But again, I did find one. So up here at the top, we're going to make a note, the Canon's image, like this one. So we're going to say let, and of course down below we call it Canon PNG, semicolon. All right? Now that actually is not all. What I need to do is actually find an image of a Canon to use. On your assignment, they give you a link to use, but again, I had to use this one right here, and so I just copied it and copied this one right here. And by copying it, I went in and then I can paste it into my Canon PNG for me. So I say space equals space, and then in an apostrophe right here, I can do Control V, and then another apostrophe right there. So this right here is where I got my image from, which again I just kind of Googled and eventually I found one that seemed to work for me. So that's this one. The one from your assignment does work better, so if that's the one that you want to use it. But this is the one that I have to use because I can't use that one. So right here, this line of code that we just put in, for me, line 39, loads that image so that we can use it. Now, when you load this on there, the Canon is actually quite large, at least if you use the one that I have. So I need to scale this. So Canon dot, we're going to scale this down, S-C-A-L-E, space equals space, and for me it was about 20%. So 0.20 takes that scale and reduces it, making it much smaller to about 20% of its size. Now again, you should run this code to make sure that it is the size that you want. If you want to make it bigger, you increase this number. If you want to make it smaller, you decrease it. But now that I have it, let's see, what I'd like to do is place the Canon where I want it. So I'm going to base it off of the pole. Let's see. So again, location, right? Canon.x space equals space. What I'm going to do is base the Canon off the pole's x. So let's see, if I do that, I can say pole.x semicolon. Now here's the problem with that. Is by doing that, what it's going to do is it's going to look upwards to find that pole.x. Yeah, so it is kind of lame that I can't use that. But what I can do is I can take the pole's x down here, I can copy it and paste it up here for my Canon x, and that would be good enough right there. Okay. So do you have to do that? Again, you don't have to do that. But if you want to do that, that's fine. And even at this point, if you wanted to, you could just say the pole's x is based on wherever the Canon's x is. Now that's kind of probably reversed. Usually, I guess what you might want to do is maybe start with the Canon and then put the pole on. But again, just for functionality, you can keep this here for the Canon's x and then have the Canon x be what used to be the pole x. It really doesn't matter. So again, if you wanted to, you could take this and make it the same as the Canon's x so that they match, right? But once again, I'm going to keep it like this because if I do want to move one, I want the other to move with it, and I can see since the pole is based on the Canon's based on its x coordinate, then I know I just need to come up here and change the Canon's x. So again, run that, make sure it works. If it does work, then we can place the Canon. Well, you can if you want to. The Canon.y space equals space. Now my canvas is 500 pixels tall, and so depending on where you want to put the Canon is completely up to you. Mine has wheels, so I would want to place it close to the ground. So let's see, how tall was my grass right here? It's height of 15, so I don't know, maybe I'll put like 50 on here. I mean, I don't know. You guys see how that works and just go from there. Well, I'm sorry, 50 is too tall, isn't it? So I do 500 minus 50, which would be 450 instead. And when you do that, again, just run your code, make sure it is where you want. Now 450 actually ends up being a little bit too low for me. So I'm going to go with, let's try 405. Let's see what that does. And once again, I think that will do it. So yeah, it's not right on the grass. So if you wanted to lower that number, 405, you could. I'm sorry, if you want to make it higher, if you wanted to make it like 420 or something like that, you're welcome to do that. But I'm going to keep it at 405. I think that's fine. Okay, so as of right now, and as of right now, the cannon is on the pole, like it's over the pole. The pole's not actually in front of the cannon, right? But I'm just going to make sure that the cannon is always layered above the pole. So I'm going to go to cannon.layer rather, space equals space, and I'm going to make it layer 2. So pole being on layer 1 here down on line 52, and putting the cannon on layer 2 means that the cannon will always be layered above the pole. Now, if you like the look of the pole going through the cannon, of course you would make probably the cannon layer 1 and the pole layer 0, but I'm not worried about that right now. Last thing we want to do is to make this cannon pretty much part of the background. So I don't want it affected by collisions, and I don't want it affected by gravity. So we're going to go to cannon.collider code. It's collider code. And this one, again, we're going to make it essentially part of the background by making it have a collider code of none. Okay, now my cannon is it's kind of angled upwards, and so we'll take care of that later. Don't worry about that. Like, we'll make sure that the cannonballs come out of mine. Yours, when you put yours on, you probably won't have to do any of that kind of code. But at least for now, at this point, we have grass, we have a pole, and we have a cannon that's going up and down. Well, it doesn't go up and down the pole yet, but we'll make it so that you can. We have a canvas with gravity and 3 customized functions, 1 for the grass, 1 for the pole, 1 for the cannon, and then of course we have a draw function. We'll get to that draw function. Don't worry about that. It's coming. And then here are our 3 customized functions that we made doing this assignment. So there's a lot of the code right there. Again, if you need to, you can pause the game and go from there. But here are our customized functions down here. Okay, this means that since everything is functioning, at least as far as I can see on my game, then we are ready to move to the next assignment. Now keep in mind, I can't run this game, so if you're running your game and you have any errors, don't do the next project. You need to stay on this video and find out where your errors are. I can't test mine, so if I have any errors, you guys have to tell me in the comments, okay? But we'll see you guys in the next one, continuing this project.